Welcome, seeker of truth. Join me as we journey through history's mysteries, where ancient wisdom and timeless stories come alive. Prepare to ignite your imagination and uncover the hidden truths of the past.
Okay, picture this with me. 1945, a farmer in Egypt just going about his day, and boom, he stumbles upon a jar.
This wasn't just any old jar, though, was it?
Oh, absolutely not. This jar, packed with ancient texts hidden away for centuries. And you want to know the real kicker? Among those texts, a gospel, but not just any gospel. This one was attributed to Mary Magdalene.
Now, that's a discovery that can shake things up a bit. Talk about a find that sends ripples through, well, everything we think we know about early Christianity, right?
It's like finding, I don't know, a hidden journal entry that completely changes how you see a whole historical event. And we're calling this one the Lost Gospel of Mary Magdalene because, really, that's what it is.
It really is. And it wasn't some passing mention either. This discovery, the Nag Hammadi Library, as it's called, it forced scholars, everyone really, to re-examine figures like Mary Magdalene. You know, she was often, how should I put it, relegated to the sidelines in those traditional stories.
Pushed off to the side, you mean? Yeah, it's like someone took the main narrative and decided to just leave out some of the most interesting parts. And in this case, those parts. They put Mary Magdalene right there in the spotlight.
Front and center. And not just as some follower in the background. This gospel, it shows her as a confidant, someone Jesus trusted with a deep, spiritual knowledge.
It challenges the whole leader-follower thing, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. This wasn't about just listening and nodding along. This was a meeting of minds, a spiritual partnership.
A real meeting of the minds. And the stuff they were discussing, let's just say it wasn't about, the proper way to set a table for a dinner party. We're talking visions, big revelations, a whole new understanding of the divine.
Right, exactly. It's a whole different level. But I think we might be getting a little ahead of ourselves.
Right, of course. We got to give everyone the full picture here.
Yeah.
So let's rewind a bit and start with something that really turns traditional thinking upside down. The divine feminine.
Oh, no, this is where it gets good. Because, see, Mary Magdalene's gospel, it talks about this time when, masculine and feminine energy, they weren't seen as opposites. They were two sides of the same coin, both equally important for everything. It challenges this whole male-dominated view that we see, really take hold in the early church.
It's like she took that old rule book and just tossed it out the window.
She didn't mince words about it either. There's this line, and it's a powerful one, let me tell you. The kingdom of heaven, she wrote, is not a place, but a state of being. Just let that sink in for a moment.
Okay, I'm letting it sink in. A state of being. Go on.
Right, but there's more. She goes on, a unity of the masculine and feminine within the soul. I mean, can you imagine hearing that back then?
Whoa. Especially when you've got this new church trying to, solidify its power structure, right? To say something like that back then, that's a bold move.
Bold. Oh, it was more than bold. It was radical. You have to remember the context, right? The early church, they were all about consolidating their influence, building this hierarchy. Anything that even hinted at something different, especially anything that spoke to, feminine spiritual authority, it would have been shut down immediately.
So this wasn't just a difference of opinion. This was like a full-on power struggle brewing.
Oh, absolutely. Control was the name of the game. And then you have Mary Magdalene saying, hey, maybe we all have the potential for this inner enlightenment, this balance within ourselves, and they didn't want that message getting out there.
It disrupts the whole power dynamic, doesn't it? If people can find their own spiritual path, who needs someone telling them what to believe?
Exactly. And you know what? That takes us to another really interesting piece of this puzzle. Mary Magdalene's vision on the Mount. Things get, let's just say, a little more mystical. And it's in this vision that we start to see something that really would have rattled those in charge.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. We've got this lost gospel, this talk about feminine power, and now visions. This is getting good. You got to tell me more about this vision, this mount, the whole 9 yards.
So imagine this. A silent sanctuary, her ascending to the heavens, and then bam, she encounters this radiant being of pure light.
Talk about an experience. What did this being tell her? What kind of secrets get spilled when you're hanging out with a being of light?
It reveals something huge about the soul. I mean, imagine being told, the soul, it says, is like a traveler on a journey through many worlds.
Whoa, okay, hold up. So are we talking reincarnation here? Like the idea that we keep coming back learning and growing with each life?
That's exactly it. And that concept, that would have thrown a wrench into the church's teachings. I mean, think about it. If people start believing they can evolve spiritually on their own, across lifetimes even, where does that leave the church?
It's like saying, hey, you don't need us to get to heaven, you're already on your way. And not just in one life, but maybe a whole bunch of them. It's like, I don't know, like the universe set up its own spiritual GPS, right? You've got the church over here saying, follow this path, it's the only way. And then boom, Mary Magdalene comes along like, nope, you've got the map within you all along. Trust your gut, trust your intuition.
Exactly. And this whole idea of a continuous journey, of always striving for that source, it's like a thread that weaves its way through Mary Magdalene's gospel, and it connects directly to another big theme, the power of love and forgiveness.
Okay, so love and forgiveness, those are pretty universal concepts though, right? I mean, you find those in almost every spiritual tradition. So what makes Mary Magdalene's take on them so different? What's she adding to the conversation?
It's a good question. And you're right, you do see those themes pop up everywhere, but there's something about the way Mary Magdalene frames them. It's not just about being like superficially nice or passively letting things slide. It's about understanding that this journey we're on, this soul's journey, it's messy.
Oh, tell me about it. Life can throw some curveballs your way, for sure.
Exactly. There will be times when we stumble, make mistakes, maybe even totally wipe out. That's part of the deal. And knowing that, well, that's where forgiveness comes in.
So it's not just about forgiving others, it's about forgiving ourselves too.
Exactly. Remember that whole idea of the soul evolving over many lifetimes. Now, imagine holding on to all that anger, all those grudges, the guilt from every single lifetime.
Oh man, talk about weighing yourself down. Who needs that kind of baggage?
Nobody. So forgiveness in this context becomes an act of self-compassion, a way to lighten the load so we can keep moving forward. It's freeing yourself up to keep growing, keep evolving.
So next time I accidentally hit reply all on that embarrassing email, it's all about cosmic self-forgiveness, right? This is like spiritual self-care on a whole other level.
Exactly. And speaking of shaking things up, there's another aspect of Mary Magdalene's gospel that really challenges the status quo, the way she talks about women in early Christianity.
Oh, right. This was a time when the church was really starting to, crack down on its structure, becoming much stricter about roles, and unfortunately, often pushing women to the sidelines. So what did Mary Magdalene have to say about that?
Well, she presented a picture that's very different from the one we've often been told. Picture this. Gatherings where men and women, they're studying together, praying together, sharing their insights. Leadership wasn't about gender, but about spiritual depth, about who had really connected with those deeper truths.
She was like, hey, remember all that stuff we were talking about balance? Well, guess what? It applies here too.
Absolutely. And it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What if her message of equality, of partnership, what if that had taken root? How different would the church be today? How different would our world be?
That's a powerful question, and it's something to really think about. But even though her teachings were buried for centuries, there's this renewed interest in Mary Magdalene's message today. Why do you think that is? What's resonating with people?
Well, for one, she's kind of like the original rebel of spirituality, isn't she? I mean, she challenged authority, went her own way, and wasn't afraid to speak her truth. And I think that resonates with a lot of people today.
Especially now. There's this hunger for authentic spirituality, People are looking beyond the traditional text, beyond the dogma, and searching for something that speaks to their own experiences.
It's like they're tired of being told what to believe and want to find their own truth, right?
Totally. And I think Mary Magdalene speaks to that. Her message, it was ahead of its time. It's about balance, about authenticity, about this beautiful interplay between the masculine and feminine within each of us.
And recognizing that both are needed, that one is not better than the other.
All right, exactly. It's all about embracing the wholeness within ourselves and recognizing that same wholeness in everyone else. And we've just begun to scratch the surface of this lost gospel, haven't we? We've explored how it challenges those old narratives, how it offers a different perspective on spiritual enlightenment, and most importantly, how it reminds us of the power that resides within each of us. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I think it's important to remember what this discovery really means, this lost gospel. It's like stumbling onto a hidden key,
It unlocks a door, doesn't it?
It does. It unlocks this whole different way of understanding early Christianity, one that doesn't always fit neatly with those stories we've always been told.
It reminds us that history, and I think this is especially true when we're talking about religious history, it's rarely black and white. It's often the case that those in power, the ones who come out on top, they get to control the narrative.
And sometimes that narrative, it leaves out some pretty important voices.
Exactly. Voices that might challenge the accepted truth. Voices like Mary Magdalene's.
Her story, her gospel, it definitely shakes things up. It makes you question everything you thought you knew and maybe even embrace a little more of that, well, that mystery that surrounds it all.
It's about being open to the possibility that there's always more to this story, right? What if the truth, the real truth, is much bigger, more inclusive, more empowering than we ever imagined?
And maybe, just maybe, those answers, those truths, they're already within us, just waiting to be uncovered, just like that lost gospel hidden away in the Egyptian desert.
What a powerful thought. That we all have the potential to unearth these profound truths, not just in ancient texts, but within ourselves.
Well said. So, to everyone listening, if you really want to dive deep, I encourage you to seek out the Lost Gospel of Mary Magdalene for yourselves. Read it, but read it with an open mind, a curious heart, and let those ancient words, let them spark your own journey of discovery.
And remember, sometimes the most incredible journeys, they start with a single question, a little bit of doubt, a spark of curiosity. Who knows what you might discover along the way?
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us, everyone. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep that spirit of discovery alive.
Thanks for exploring with me. If you enjoyed this journey, share it, like it, and subscribe for more stories that bridge the past and present. Keep seeking, keep learning. Until next time.